Hey everyone, it's me, the RetroDen, and today I want to take a look at a game I recently purchased called Veritus. Veritus is an action RPG developed by Colorgrave, which aims to replicate the feeling of old Game Boy Zelda games. I found this game while looking for new RPGs to play back in July, and it appealed to me right from the get-go because of the very old school feel and detailed pixel art similar to games like Link's Awakening. The game starts off with a cool animated cutscene, which shows you all the characters in the game that will be accompanying you throughout your journey, which I found really charming since you can tell it was pretty well put together. I created my save, set up the window settings and got to playing. The game starts off with some simple exposition of you having to fulfill your destiny, and then you're immediately thrown into the first dungeon. The way that Veritus differences itself from something like a Zelda game is the fact that the entirety of the game is passed inside of dungeons with moment-to-moment puzzles and combat which constantly introduce you to new mechanics. We start off in a zone called Memoria, which introduces some simple puzzles and naturally gets you to discover how to use your pickaxe, which is your character's general tool and weapon. Right at the beginning of the game, we get a heart piece similar to Zelda games, which by gathering 3 more, we're able to get a full heart to add to the ones we already have. As it was expected from a game like this, it entices you to explore as much as you can from the dungeons you're in order to get stuff you need to progress further in the game, such as keys to open doors or tools to make traversing easy, which is the case of the Dead Hand, the first tool you get, which lets you warp to the point of the room you came from, skipping over walls you might have activated during the puzzles. Combat in this game, as I mentioned, is firstly restricted to the pickaxe, which can be kind of weird, seeing as the enemy's speed sometimes feels a little bit too fast, not giving you time to properly angle your hits, leading you to take what sometimes feels like unfair damage because you can't properly position yourself in regards to enemies. One thing I really enjoyed about this game was how the further you moved in the game, it seemed to get more colorful, which added to the already nice pacing of the game. So the more you progress, the better the game looks and the more things you have to do in it. When it comes to dying in this game, I can say that it is pretty fair, since the only punishment you really suffer from is being thrown back into your latest save point, which if you unlock the shortcuts the game provides you with, it is not really that bad. And I know that because my dumb self died a lot of times for the amount of time that I played. The second mechanic we got introduced to was a really cool one, which was a smart addition considering everyone likes grappling hooks in video games. The grappling hook in this game can be used to access places higher up on the map or on the other side of rivers, and can also be used to pull enemies and items towards you. One thing I failed to mention until now, which I really like, was the UI of the game. The all-in-one incubated UI was really pleasing because it makes the game feel like you're back at a one-screen handheld Nintendo console. Like any good dungeon crawler action RPG, the game also features cool bosses which I found to be really accessible, since the biggest difficulty in this game is probably making your way to the boss with the most amount of health that you can. The first boss in this game provides you with a power-up that lets you do an empowered spinning attack, giving you a stronger AoE option for combat. It's after this first boss that we enter the actual first big dungeon, which is Castle Veritus, which is probably the place I spent the most time up until now. The beginning of Castle Veritus introduces you to the painting, which is where you can rest and save your game, which I found to be really charming and well put together. Just like the first dungeon, Castle Veritus has you using everything you learned up until now to get more items and to teach you new mechanics you can use further in the game. Castle Veritus was a great section because it really shows how capable the developers were in terms of diversifying what you would be doing, since nothing in this section felt repetitive or overused. The puzzles were different enough from one another that I always felt like I was doing something fresh. Up until this point, my biggest gripe has to be with the exposition, as I feel like for games like this, some background of the world at the beginning of the game on what has happened or what was happening could be more fleshed out. It's not that I don't enjoy the cryptic books around the map and the ambiguous storytelling, but I think that nowadays it's becoming too much of a trend because of the Souls-like genre, and in my opinion, not every game benefits from this genre of storytelling. Nevertheless, this didn't affect my positive feelings about the game itself. The end of the first section of Castle Veritus had a very cool boss which had you dodging and throwing boulders on top of him, which I found to be really fun and responsive. After killing the boss, you get put into a new zone that is basically what I think is the hub area for the rest of the game, in which you get to access to the crafting systems of the game and armor, buffs and food, and you get access to the new zones you will need to finish to open the big door to progress to what I guess is going to be be the end game. From everything I played until now, I can pretty surely say that this was well spent money, and for old school Zelda fans out there is a lot to enjoy in this game. From checking how long to beat, I'm guessing the game isn't really long, so don't be diving into this one expecting a long drawn out game, but something you can beat in a day or less and maybe 1 or 2 sessions, which is still a good bang for your buck. I would love to hear what you thought about this game or my review on it. Make sure to leave a comment if you want to discuss something. Other than that, this has been the RetroDen, and I'm out.